improve your language skills. I help you to master languages quickly, improve your social life, dating life, personal life, professional life, and everything which can be improved by mastering foreign languages. So in this live stream, I'm going to be talking about social life, about personal life, and how it can be improved, and basically just one of the aspects of that I was personally dealing with is how to actually date a Korean girl, or how to date a Korean guy if you're a girl watching this live stream. Since I'm a guy, and since I know that most of my audience are guys, especially from Western countries, so in this live stream I'm going to be using mostly I'm going to be saying the word girl, which means that I'm going to be talking about girls mostly, but it doesn't mean that those types of those tips cannot be applied to guys as well. It's pretty much the same. So first of all, I'd like to start with why am I qualified to talk about this topic. First of all, I'm qualified to talk about this topic is I probably dated more Korean girls than an average Korean guy. Not probably, but 100%. And I have more experience of doing that than not only any other foreigner, but also any other Korean guy. And the reason why is because I started quite a few years ago, and I became interested in Korean language and Korean culture quite a few years ago, and so I have massive experience. I made lots of mistakes. And I want you to avoid those mistakes. And so in this live stream, I'm going to be starting with the process of actually finding a romantic partner in Korea, and then I'm going to be proceeding on about certain mindset, certain tips on how to actually date a Korean girl, how to do it successfully. And let's talk about another aspect of this live stream. This live stream is mostly not for people who are looking for one-night stands or quick relationships, or all those sorts of like open relationships, all those sorts of things. And the reason why is that a few days ago I just saw one of the comments under one of my videos, which is called "Why Whites Can't Get a Pretty Korean Girlfriend." One of the guys said that he's been living in Korea, and he said that literally, I think that I'm quoting, he said, "I slept with like dozen Korean girls." This is what he said. And it's really easy for me as a white guy. This is what he said. And what I said was that the video is called the words in the video were like "pretty Korean girlfriend." The video is not called "how to go to Itaewon and get one-night stands with Korean girls." So the distinguishing point that I'm going to be making here in this live stream is that there are different types of people everywhere. Itaewon, I'm saying the word Itaewon. What is Itaewon? Itaewon is the street famous for foreigners, for clubs with lots of foreigners, for bars with lots of foreigners. And guys, white guys in many cases go there, and Korean girls go there. And among those girls that you can see going there, so there are so many girls that they don't dress like a traditional Korean girl would dress, and they don't look like a traditional Korean girl would look like, and they speak close to perfect English. And this is actually really interesting. And I'm not being, I don't want to be racist or misogynistic or all those sorts of things, but I'm just talking about there are Korean girls who are only interested in dating foreign guys. They speak perfect English, and they are really different from the average Korean girl that I'm going to be talking about in this live stream. And also clubs in Korea, girls who go to clubs in Korea, they're kind of a little bit different from what I saw in other countries. And so I'm not going to be touching on the subject of how to get one-night stands and how to get like quick relationships, because I think it's easier. B, there are not so many very attractive partners that I personally saw there in that dating pool. And another thing that I want to say is that pretty much wait a second. Yes, Another thing that I'm going to be saying, another thing that I want to tell you is that I just I just saw some people just sending some absolutely unrelated stuff and decided to block them. I don't know whether it was one person or two people. So basically, if you guys, if you ask questions in chat, I might answer them at the end. If you ask questions related to what I'm saying, I'm going to be answering them right on the fly. The thing that I want to say is that I'm not talking about one night stands, is what I told you. I'm not talking about perfectly English-speaking girls who look like foreign girls and not look that well, not dressed that well. And I'm not going to be talking about West End. I'm going to be talking about extremely attractive girls. I'm going to be talking about extreme, like the dating life of your dream. And this is what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about my personal mistakes and how you can avoid them. So basically, first of all, let's talk about the aspect of being a foreigner in Korea. So first of all, what is the distinguishing point between you and other people? Because there is such an argument of being white guy or foreign guy in Korea, like what are the advantages? And people used to talk about advantages a lot. They're like, yeah, Korean people, like Korean girls, like white guys, they're interested in white guys and stuff like this. Well, it's what I tend to respond when I hear those types of sentences. Thank you for the feedback. So what I tend to respond is that the interest that you get as a foreign guy in Korea, like the interest from girls, from guys, from grandmas, from grandpas, it's kind of similar with the interest when people go to the zoo. They stare at some animal. And this is kind of similar to the interest that the animal can get at the zoo. This is kind of the same. They stare at the animal, but they don't do anything with the animal. Like they just stare, they can give food or something like this. They can take some photos with the animal or of the animal, but this is it. This is it. Yeah, so I saw some weird people talking, like coming to life and basically doing some weird messaging. So basically, what I want to say is that this is kind of funny. Is it a spam bots or spam robots or what is happening? Can you guys give me some feedback? So the thing is that you get attention, you get a lot of attention, but it doesn't mean that it will be something. I remember my first time when I was in Japan. I remember a few girls stopped and they wanted to take a photo with me, and I was like, wow, I'm so popular. And then I asked for a contact and for a phone number from one of them, and she rejected me. I was like, why? You just took photos of me, don't you like me? And I was like, I was like, what is going on here? It's really weird because girls stop, they stare at you, they smile at you, they take photos with you, and then they kind of reject you right on the spot. And welcome to Asia, my friend. Welcome to Asia. Welcome to Asia. People can take photos with you. People can take photos of you. People can stare at you, smile at you, tell you that you're handsome, you're cute, you're this, you're that. But is there tips for Japanese girl? Not yet, my friend, not yet. So, but it doesn't mean that they are going to be proceeding somewhere else with you. It doesn't mean that they're going to be like dating you or giving you like phone contact information or even making friends with you. So this is like the number one thing that I want you to learn is that if somebody here in Korea, in Japan as well, you asked about Japan. Like this is what I'm talking about. If the girl is smiling in you, you want to take photos of like with you or of you, and want to even text this photo, like send this photo to her friends, and ask you where you're from, and tell you that you're handsome and all those types of compliments, it doesn't mean that she's going to be proceeding with you. This is extremely important. And another thing is that this is the next thing that I'm going to be talking about. This popularity actually comes, this popularity myth that white guys are popular in Asia this popularity myth actually comes from the fact, hi Victor, hello. So this popularity myth actually comes from these kind of short traveling trips that many foreigners have when they go to Korea or Japan. They think that they're popular just because people are staring at them, or people notice them, or people want to take pictures with them, and people are extremely friendly with them and smiling with them. But it doesn't mean if you live here, if you actually look at the dating scene, if you actually look at the social dynamics, it doesn't mean that you're popular. So I'm going to be also, this is kind of one of the first myths that I debunked for myself when I went to Japan, then I went to China, then I went to Korea. Another thing that I'm going to be talking about is this overgeneralization of the word Asian girls. When we're talking about Philippines or Vietnam or all those kind of undeveloped countries, there is a completely different dating scene and social dynamics going on in place. So before I jump into the tips, guys, this is a really long introduction, but before I jump into the tips, I want to tell you that Asia, like Southeast, like East Asia, Japan, China and Korea is really different from countries like Vietnam, Philippines, or Thailand. It's really different. So I'm going to be talking about extremely advanced culture, the culture which is extremely different from US and Western countries. All those dating tips that you probably heard of that actually take place in Western countries, many of them don't even exist here. So the first dating tip that I'm gonna tell you, it applies to meeting people and it applies to relationships as well. Wait a second. Yeah, it applies to relationships as well. The first dating tip that I want to give you is don't be needy and don't go for a call to action right from the start. What is call to action? Call to action is when you ask somebody for a date, when you ask somebody to give you a phone number, when you ask somebody to do something for you. You see a girl and you ask her to basically give you some contact information right from the start, or to date you right from the start, or to meet with you. All those sorts of calls to action, I call them CTAs. So don't think of a CTA until you make a connection with the person. This is the very first thing I'm going to be talking about. Don't be needy, don't be desperate for the person. And it actually, how does it how does it look like with guys when, let's say, they approach a girl at a bar, a club, or during the day, and they start a conversation right from the start. They just ask for contact information without making a conversation, without making a connection, without joking around, without smiling. And the second mistake that they do is that as soon as they get a contact information from the person, they start to ask them out right from the first sentence, or ask them for a phone number or some additional contact information. So you should have a social awareness about all those stages, and this applies to meeting a person and also dating as well. So another tip I'm going to be sharing with you here is especially it's related to Korean girls, is basically showing the girl that you're serious and that you care for her by responding to messages and keeping in touch. Is extremely important. Messaging culture, the culture of keeping in touch, is extremely important in Korea. If you don't respond to somebody, especially at the beginning stage of an interaction, if you don't respond to somebody for a couple hours in America or somewhere in the Western country, like I think the longer the time that you wait for responding to somebody, the cooler you seem to be. This is what I know from experience and from actually basically everything that I heard of. And in Korea, it's completely different. If the girl is interested in you, if you're interested in her, and if she is attractive, she is actually really interested in you responding as quickly as possible. If it takes like a few hours every single time to respond, it's not a good thing. So responding quicker is a good thing here. It's like kind of the opposite from the Western world. The CTA, the neediness, the self-confidence is the same with the Western world. Another thing is being indirect is better than being direct. For example, if you say some compliments that you like a girl, you say that she's pretty, all those sorts of compliments and direct approaches, here is not good. Like if you say compliment after compliment, and if you're extremely direct in what you think, in how you like her, it is so bad. Like it is so bad. all those sorts of things. Asian culture, Korean, Japanese, Chinese culture, especially Korean and Japanese cultures, are really subtle. So you don't say that much. In many cases, you just don't say that much. You just express it via your actions, via your facial expression, via your vocal tonality, eye contact, all those sorts of things. You don't actually verbalize that you like somebody. You don't actually verbalize that somebody looks good. You can make a compliment, but you just don't focus on it for a long time. Another thing that I noticed with dating is that it looks like it really looks almost like, in many cases, when you go on the first date with a girl, it really looks, in many cases, it looks like a job interview. 한국 여자랑 데이트하면 어디서 해야 되나요? So yeah, it's a really good question about where should you actually meet Korean girls if you actually meet them. I'm going to be finishing my last sentence, and then I'm going to be starting to talking about dating spots and more kind of precise things, so detailed things. Yeah, so actually, what was I talking about? What was I talking about? I forgot. I was talking about the call to action. At the end of the day, my brain just doesn't function well. Yeah, so, oh yeah, about the subtleties of expression. Yeah, people just don't, they're not that direct when they want to say something. You know, for example, when you choose the place where to go, by the way, the question was related to this topic as well. When you choose the place where to go, let's say you want to eat chicken and the girl wants to eat pizza. So, and you know that you want to eat chicken and you know that she wants to eat pizza, but you don't say that I want to eat chicken, let's go eat chicken, like how you would do it probably in Western countries. In this kind of situation, man would be like alpha male, like would be like, hey, let's go and stuff. In Korea, it would be like, what do you want to eat? Like you start with the question first, and then you actually make everything to make other person feel more comfortable. So basically you go to the place that the other person wants to go. So you come from this type of mindset. You ask the person what he or she, like what she likes more, or he likes more if you're a girl watching this live stream, what she likes more, and then you actually base your decision on that preference of another person. So as for the dating spots, a really good question. So traditional date, I have another video about that. Traditional date consists of two parts. A good date consists of two parts. If it's not a good date, the first part finishes and the second part doesn't happen. So traditional date consists of two parts. The first part is going to a restaurant, not an expensive restaurant, just like not extremely expensive, just like normal restaurant. The first part, and the second part is going to the cafe. If you put names of your country, where you're from, I might be a little bit like, are you from US, Canada, Russia, Korea, anywhere? So I know that in the US and Russia, mostly guys pay all the time, and in Western cultures, and in Korea and in China, I don't know, but Japan probably as well. 근데 제이는 맨날 피자만 먹으러 가자고 해요. Okay, so my girlfriend jumped into the chat, and she says that all the time I want to eat pizza, and this is the only thing I want to eat. This is so funny. Yeah, so I was like, yeah. Anyways, so traditional date consists of two parts, and this during the first part somebody pays, and during the second part somebody else pays. So basically there are two. So let's take an example of a guy, a girl going for a date and going to a restaurant. So guy pays at the restaurant and girl pays at the cafe, or girl pays at the restaurant and guy pays at the cafe. This is a traditional thing. It's really different. Why am I talking about who pays? Because it's a really huge distinguishing point between Western cultures and Eastern cultures. Is because Korean girls, I'm talking about Korean girls, when I'm talking about Asian girls, I'm not talking about Vietnamese or Thailand or something like this, okay? So it's really different. Korean girls are really independent, the same for Chinese girls as well, especially Korean girls are really independent. They don't think that you should pay for them all the time, at least normally. And so let's say you pay for a restaurant and the girl pays for a cafe, don't be freaking out and saying that no, I will pay for everything. Don't be freaking out. It's okay in this culture. It's okay to do so. I mean, there are different situations. For example, the girl is a student and you are working at a company and stuff like this. There can be different like financial situations, but I'm just going to be talking about the average type of date. That is normal. That is the first date, something like this. And another aspect, where to go, like what are the good places to go for a date? The first, like cafes, restaurants, and normally Korean people are extremely careful when choosing of where to go. They're extremely careful when choosing where to go. For example, they go to naver.com, and naver.com is the same with Google, and they search for for delicious restaurant. They search for some special cafe, because there are so many cafes and restaurants, and they're so available for people. You cannot go to the park in winter, so they're so available. So people, they go to restaurants and cafes pretty much every single day. I'm working at a Korean company right now. I go to restaurants a few times a day. And so, of course, it's the same. So people want to go to some special place. They want to go to some special cafe, and so people are searching for those places. And if you go for the first day, if you date a Korean girl for the first time, or it's your second time or third time, it's a really good advice to actually search for some specific, special, interesting place that you want to go to in that specific area that you meet. This is extremely important. Another tip I'd like to give you here is, when you meet somebody, don't just say that you want to meet them for meeting them. I think this is the biggest thing. I think this is a mistake that I didn't do that much. Like, I just want to meet, it's like you just meet a random person. Of course, like, let's say it's an attractive girl, you want to meet her. You don't just say, I want to meet you just to have a date with you. Just invite her to do something that you would do anyway, or something that is interesting and fun that you would do with your friends as well, something related to hobby, again, interesting restaurants, some interesting place to go to. So it's extremely important to invite somebody to your party, and your party would be present, like your party would be organized and would go well anyway, whether this person comes to your party or no. Don't just say that you go there to just meet this, like I want to meet you just to meet you. So what is the specific example that I would give you here that I'm using in my personal life, and my girlfriend is making fun of me because I asked her for the first date saying that thing. But one of the examples that they say, let's study together. Like, this is one of the examples. Another example, you can say, let's go camping together. I know people go camping in Korea a lot. I know let's go longboarding together. This is the thing that I used as well. Like, let's go longboarding for the first date. Let's go snowboarding, skiing, like anything, any hobby that you have, anything that you can invite other people to, you can go do this activity and go to a restaurant or cafe like after it. So this is extremely important. Like, this is, be creative. Don't be just like, I want to meet you, let's just go. Like, nobody knows where. And another extremely important thing is that like in many situations, what average Korean girl cares about. 저도 캠핑하고 싶어요. In many situations, what Korean girls care about is whether you're actually considering her as a long-term dating partner, as like whether you want to meet her over a long-term period of time, how flaky you are. Because in many cases, as a foreigner in Korea, the number one question that the girl wants to ask you, and her friends want to ask you, and her parents, is whether you are that flaky, weird, one-night stand-ish foreigner. Like, this is the number one question that they want to ask you. There's nothing wrong with doing one-night stands. I'm not looking down on those things. I also did one-night stands in my life as well. I'm just saying that one-night stands is not the topic of this live stream. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about dating tips, relationship tips, on how to actually start a relationship, how to actually be in a relationship, what are the mistakes that people do and stuff. And so Another, so because many Korean girls, they got negative experiences and negative stories with foreigners who dated for a short period of time, and then they cheated or went to another country or just completely did something bad. So this is one of the things that I personally saw. Like I personally talked to girls like this, and they're like, I had a really negative experience with foreign guys. Uh, and so this is what, like, the first question. And another question that Korean girls will have, her friends will have, her parents will have, and stuff, and your friends will have as well, is what is the language that you're using for communication? If you're considering dating Korean girls, not less some short-term thing, but if you're considering it as a future, as something long-term, something that you want to relate your life with, something you want to do for a long period of time, I would advise you to actually learn a foreign language, Korean language. I would actually advise you to learn Korean language, and the reason is that it's so different. I started dating Korean girls in English. I dated a few girls in English, and then I proceeded with Korean. And this is so different. I'm telling you it's different because it is different. I dated Chinese girls in Russian and in Chinese. And I dated Korean girls in English and in Korean. When you're talking to a person in his language, in her language, it is so different. So you can understand so many things. Today I was checking out the research on the internet related to how brain changes when mastering a foreign language. And the interesting thing that I saw was that our behavior changes when talking a foreign language. Like the things that I would say in Korean, the behavior that I would do with Korean people is completely different from my Russian personality, which is really direct and open. My Korean personality is really introverted. Like in many cases, like let's say I'm working or talking to Korean, I'm not that as extrovert as I am when I'm speaking English or when I'm speaking Russian. So I'm really different. When I speak Chinese, I'm different. When I speak Korean, I have another personality. And so, which is more like when I speak Korean, because I used to live in the Korean culture for a few years already. I used to speak Korean 24/7 for a few years. I'm not that direct. I'm not that extrovert. I don't ask too many questions. So if I want to say something, I just try to say it like kind of in an indirect way. So this is the same thing happens when you actually understand Korean culture. The same thing happens when you start speaking Korean. You start understanding Korean girls on a completely different level. When I was speaking English and when I was speaking beginner basic Korean and when I started speaking fluent Korean, I was a completely different person. When I started interacting with Korean girls, when I was just speaking English, I was extremely direct, didn't know a damn thing about Korean culture. Was just saying, what, it's so weird, why you just go home right now, you cannot just go with me, like you cannot just stay with me for this night, you're 25 years old, why you should just go home, why are you afraid of your parents? Like I remember like in 2016 or something, I was like, why, why, like asking those stupid questions that I wouldn't even think of right now. And then I started speaking beginner Korean, and then I became less direct, more polite, more understanding, more aware of another person's feelings and emotions and cultural differences. And then I started speaking fluent Korean, and then I became a completely different person, understanding, let's say, the parents of the person that I'm dating, understanding the cultural background, understanding all those cultural subtleties. And so when I'm saying learn Korean, I'm not just saying learn the language just to speak it. I'm saying learn the culture, because you cannot just learn the language, you also learn the culture. You cannot learn the culture without learning a language. You can buy this type of, like I have textbook, you can buy this amount of textbooks about Korean culture. You'll not know a damn thing about Korean culture without learning Korean language. Facial expressions, features, like so many things, guys, it's crazy. Speaking English is not the same, and the things that Korean girls would say in English is also different from the things that you would say in Korean, and it's completely different. And so this is another tip that I like to talk about. And the next tip, the relationship tip, the tip that I would like to talk about is, in many cases, what I noticed with the Korean girls is probably with all other, like with other probably with other girls as well, but with Korean girls especially, they're much less forgiving if you say something wrong, if you do something wrong, or if you do some mistake, especially if you say something in a rude way. Because I'm Russian, I'm really direct. I tend to swear a lot. I tend to say lots of bad words, lots of direct words. I tend to say everything that comes to my mind. I don't know whether it's because I'm Russian or because of my it also relates to my personality traits as well. And it's completely opposite with Korean culture. So for example, the things that you would say in English and Russian is like, oh, are you a child? Why you act this way? Why do you ask your parents whether you can go there or not? Why are you da 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 da? And so the things that you would say in your culture, you wouldn't say them in the Korean culture at all. It would be extremely rude. Swear words. Like I used to swear a lot in Russian and in English. It doesn't sound as rude as it sounds in Korean. When people swear in Korean, it sounds extremely rude. Extremely rude. When people when I swear in Chinese, people smile. When I swear in Korean, people like, why are you so mad? I remember I sent like a few years ago, I sent a few swear words to one of my friends. She's a girl. To one of my friends like a few years ago, the new swear words that I learned in Korean. She was like, "Why are you saying that? It's so rude. It's so bad. Who taught you that? It's crazy." So if you like to swear in English, if you like to swear in Russian or any other foreign language, in any other language, and don't think that you can just do the same communication style in Korean. Like, don't do this way. Don't think this way. Don't think that if you can say certain things like directly in your own language, don't think that you can say them directly in Korean. It's extremely important to understand. Another thing, if you go to a restaurant or a cafe with a Korean girl, you should first take care of her. The same goes for company meetings, business meetings, professional meetings. I work at a Korean company, 100% Korean everything. Emails in Korean, communication is in Korean, presentation is in Korean, business plans are in Korean. So everything that I'm doing right now, business like professional wise, is in Korean. And so the thing that like the distinguishing point is that when you go to a restaurant or a cafe with a business, even with your Korean friend, with a girlfriend, with the girl you're dating for the first date, like for the first time, and when you start dating, when you're in relationships, in all those situations, you take care of other people first. What does it mean? So in Korea, they have free water, they have cups, and they have free water. So you prepare water for the person first, and then you prepare water for yourself. So you prepare fork and spoon for the person. 자, 관우 왔네. 관우 안녕하세요. So you prepare the person. You prepare like everything for the person first. You give menu to the person. 好久不见。之前我记得你在中国的时候会去。Yeah, so like one of the people asked me why I'm not doing interviews right now. I used to do them in China. I'm not doing interviews why I'm not doing interviews in Korea. Yeah, well, so interview is just one of the formats that I tried. It's not that I'm not doing them. I'm going to be doing them in the future. And so I did interviews in Korea as well. The last time I did interviews was in spring. Yeah, trans HSA. I'm doing it. Yeah, so I did lots of interviews back in China. Now I'm doing like I tried interviews in Korea as well, and I'll probably gonna be doing interviews as well. The problem that I have was that 就是我的最大的问题是没有人会派我，你知道吗？我一个人不可以派。 就没有人会帮助我。如果你会帮助我，我就可以拍，你知道吗？我就现在就可以拍。So I cannot. So what I said in Chinese right now was that I don't have a cameraman. This is 한국어도 해주세요. 나를 찍어주는 사람 없어서 내가 인터뷰 못 찍어. 그 방금 그 사람 물어봤던 게 내가 중국에서 인터뷰 많이 찍었는데 지금 왜 찍을 수 없냐고, 지금 왜 안 찍냐고 물어봤어 나한테. So in Korean, just said like, yeah, just basically translate it. So the thing is that if you have a cameraman in Korea who can help me, I'm gonna be shooting more interviews. The problem is that, what about boys? Do you have any tips for boys? So about dating guys, it's the same. If the girl is extremely like open, is extremely direct with the guy, with the Korean guy, he can be completely turned off by it, I think. Like because I have Korean friends, guy friends that I communicate with on a regular basis. I would say that most of my communications are in Korean. So it's with a friend, or girlfriend, or company meetings or something. So most of the time I'm communicating with in Korean. And so what I can say is that Koreans just don't like direct approach, don't like being extremely direct, extremely open in certain aspects. They're very conservative in many cases, and they would be like, why are you so direct? Why are you saying that? So I think being a little bit more subtle and just genuinely talking and connecting with the person would be like the best advice. And yeah, not being needy, not being desperate, being genuinely interested in the person. I think this is kind of the most important thing. The trend that I saw happening right now in Korea, I think right now people are really into online dating, messaging, video calling each other, and I saw people literally becoming they haven't seen each other, and then they met on some app, dating app or language exchange app, and then they became boyfriend and girlfriend, and then they met, and then they liked it, and I saw so many crazy situations. And I think that right now it's really important that you understand the communication, like the communication skills that you should master. It's not only like that you should learn Korean and culture and understand understand cultural aspects and cultural differences. It's also extremely important that you master your core potential. Like you understand your core potential, you understand your core strengths, and you actually start liking yourself. Because it's really hard if you see a girl online or offline. It's really hard not to become needy and desperate and start asking questions and asking for a date, asking for a phone number right from the start. But the thing is that it comes with practice. The most important mistakes I see white guys and foreigners and even Korean guys do here in Korea and in every country is that when they don't have a social circle, they cannot meet girls or other people. They just don't do anything about it. They don't go out, they don't go up to people, they don't invite anybody to their lives, they don't exchange contact information. If they see somebody attractive in a coffee shop, they don't approach them. They don't use apps for communicating. They always use English and don't learn a foreign language. They don't try to discover cultural aspects. So this is kind of the best, like not the best, the worst thing that I see guys doing. And I saw so many, like most of the foreigners that I saw here in Korea, they lived here for years, and the only Korean girls, they can't speak Korean, couldn't learn Korean. The only Korean girls that they happened to date, I cannot say it in another way, cannot state it in another way, happened to date, is those who are not very, I'm sorry to say that, but like not very hard to get, if you see what I mean. Not very hard to get, and not extremely beautiful, and don't look like a average Korean girl, and speak fluent English. So this is kind of, if you see what I mean, you see what I mean, right? So this is the average girl that I see foreign guys date in Korea. So I see a foreigner like walking together, like a foreigner this height, and a girl is this height, like this height, and it's like the difference is like 50% difference in height, and I just don't understand what is happening. And people online and offline saying, but white guys are so popular in Korea, like foreigners are so popular in Korea. And I'm like, show me, like show me. I remember a funny story, back in the days when I actually did lots of mistakes when interacting with girls. I wasn't that good. Like I was approaching getting rejection after rejection. I remember one of my Asian American friends, Korean American or American Korean, depending how you call it. So he's like, yo, what? It's so easy for you to get a girl here. So I was like, let's go. We went out on Itaewon. I got 20 rejections in a row. It's like literally 20 rejections. And he was like, yeah, right now I changed my mind. I was like, yeah, it's really hard, especially at night. So people have this misconception that white guys are really popular. It's really easy. Of course, in some cases it's so much easier than for Koreans, but it's still so much harder at the same time because of the lack of communication skills, culture, like language skills, social skills, and all those sorts of things. If you think about it, the average foreigner that comes here to Korea is either the guy or the girl or a girl who is traveling, or somebody who teaches English here, which is a really low barrier to entry. Most people who come here, I'm sorry if you're one of them. I mean, I'm not judging. What I'm saying is that not everybody aims to learn a foreign language. Not everybody has to do so. But I think that if you come here and if you live here for years, it's really sad that if you really don't try to learn Korean. It's really sad because so many people, they don't have this opportunity. I'm Russian. I cannot teach English officially in Korea. I'm not qualified to teach English. I cannot do it legally in Korea, in China, or any other country here. And so I don't have this kind of advantage. But many guys from Western countries, you guys come and you have this extreme advantage. You have a really good wage, place for living, like really good work conditions, and it's not that hard to find a teaching job, especially if you have a high education, like if you have a bachelor's degree or master's degree, and you have this kind of chance and you don't master Korean, like come on, like just one for a language. So this is just one of the wake-up calls that I would like to send out there. If you know what I'm talking about, it's okay if you don't do so. Different people have different goals. You don't have to do so. So getting back to the topic of the guidelines of the best dating tips, how to date Korean girl, style is extremely important. Taking care of oneself is extremely important. Taking showers is extremely important. Just being well dressed. Just try to make the best version of yourself that you possibly can, and try to learn how to match colors, how to wear better clothes, how to be in a better shape, exercise, workout. Like try to maximize your looks. Whatever disadvantage that you have out there, I don't know about your particular disadvantage, but whatever disadvantage that you have, whether you think that you're not that tall, or you have you don't have a white skin, you have a black skin or something, like whatever the thing that it's not like whatever the thing that you call a disadvantage for yourself, try not to be negatively focusing on this disadvantage, which is not necessarily disadvantage. Try to improve your, like, everything about you. Like try to improve your looks, try to dress better, try to look better, anything which is related to your appearance. And when doing so, don't be coming from a frame of mind of your country. Like for example, if you're from India, don't be like, I'm gonna be dressing like a cool Indian dude. Like in India it's cool, like these glasses, like this black how is it called, aviator or something. Like these glasses are really cool in India, and like this hairstyle is really cool in India, and dress like Indian style, like it's really cool in India, so I'm gonna be cool in Korea. Don't think this way. Or in America, like wearing freaking 10 colors at once is cool, so I'm gonna be wearing 10 colors, like different colors, or like if you like different like 3 colors or 4 colors, like red with blue with black and stuff like this. If it's cool in your country, it doesn't mean that it's cool in Korea. So you're gonna be like, you should learn how Korean people dress. You should kind of merge with the culture and stuff like this. So appearance is extremely important. Maximizing appearance is extremely important. Smelling, like how you smell, like your hair, like everything, just like small things. Try to focus on them, zoom in on them, and study them, and just basically improve them. I'm not an expert on that. I'm still learning myself. I'm not an expert on that. What I'm just giving you advice in this area. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on like looks and how you should improve your looks. But if you think that there is somebody about you that you can improve, for example, going to the gym, building muscles, dressing better, dressing more like people from Korean drama, if you want to do that, this is the best thing that you can do. And stop thinking about your insecurities as well. Many people ask me, hey, Victor, do Korean girls like people from Kazakhstan or Mongolia or US or India? Like, there are different niches, like, for everybody. I know Korean girls who like dating Afro-American guys. I know Korean girls who dated Indian guys. I know every niche you can mention. I know cases when Korean girls date overweight guys. It's like every niche is out there. What is extremely important is that you maximize your social skills, your language skills, your looks, everything about you, and then you go out there, and then you don't be needy and don't ask for a girl to go on a date with you, to give you a phone number, to answer you like countless questions and stuff like this. Just be easy and outgoing, and just be light, don't be just like a burden, like don't be like a burden to a person. This is extremely important. And the mistakes that I personally did when I started, well, the biggest mistake that I did was that I was extremely disappointed at the beginning, because I actually thought that white guys should be popular in Asia. This is the biggest mistake that I had. What I noticed was that I became less popular than in my own country, and so much less popular in Korea. I felt that like this is the worst situation ever. And so the biggest mistake that I personally made was that I was way too stereotypical. I was like, because I'm a white guy, it should be easier for me. And then I saw those rejections and lack of attention, lack of interest towards me. This is the very first mistake. And the disappointment that I get after it was that, holy shit, like I started thinking that Korean girls don't like foreign guys at all. And then I started finding evidence for that and talking to people, and some of my friends said, yes, Korean girls don't like Russian guys, da 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 da. And then I started believing into that, and then it created kind of a negative spiral. And then I became kind of, I'm sharing my personal story here, and my personal biases and my personal way. And so back in the days, I was really kind of embarrassed of saying that I'm Russian even. Like, it's really crazy, because I got this stereotype that Korean girls don't like Russians. 好的，谢谢。为什么离开中国了？为什么原因让你离开？是社会环境的原因，因为他说跟中国女孩，哎，wait a second，跟中国女孩。Yeah, so the person asked, why did I leave China? And because in China I seem to be really happy, and because it's not that I want. So I decided to leave China because I just wanted adventure, and because I haven't lived in Korea, and I cannot choose between what I don't even know. So I traveled to Korea many times, and I liked Korea, and I wanted to try to live in Korea. So this is kind of the first reason. And another reason was that I actually just became interested in dating Korean girls. One of the reasons. Yeah, just like became interested in the environment. Really, everything is really different. I'm a little bit driven, like it's not rational. It wasn't a rational decision, more like an emotional decision, because when I just started my journey of learning languages and experiencing different cultures, I started with Japan. And at that time, I said that I'm going to be like fluent in Japanese in 3 years. It was in 2013. Right now it's 2021. I'm still not fluent in Japanese, so I'm still learning Japanese. So I started with Japanese, but I'm still learning Japanese. So it's kind of interesting. So the reason was just emotional. I was just genuinely more interested in dating Korean girls and living in and trying to live in Korea and in experiencing adventures in Korea. And yes, it's true. I was actually probably more happy in China than I am in Korea. I was much happier in China, I think. Probably part of the reason is not only related to China and Chinese culture, but also related to the fact that I was a foreign student, having a scholarship and having a lot of free time and having money and just like spending my time as much like in the way that I wanted to spend it. So to answer the question in the chat. And yeah, getting back to the topic is so what I want to say is that I had this myth, yeah, that white guys should be popular, especially from China, because in China it is easier for white guys, a little bit easier. Yes, it is true. In Korea, it's not the same. And another thing, another mistake that I did was like I was way too direct, and I was just making jokes that completely wouldn't make sense in Korean culture. This kind of jokes completely wouldn't make sense in Korean culture. They're really rude, sometimes even racist. Like for example, I remember I was like approaching girls in club and Korean girls and saying "konnichiwa" to them, which is a hello in Japanese. They were like, "What the like this is this guy doing?" I was doing like so many interesting, weird things that would make sense in other cultures, but completely wouldn't make sense in Korean culture. I was way too direct, and the most important thing that I had was that I was I didn't have confidence at all. Like when I compare it right now, even my facial expression and the way that I speak, I just didn't have confidence at all. And the confidence is that you approach a person, you just talk normally, and you just don't care whether the person leaves or stays with you, gives you her contact information or no. You're just genuinely interested in the person. You don't care whether she leaves or not, no matter how attractive she is. So this kind of confidence. This is the thing that I was lacking. And everything which came from that, like asking too many questions, going for a call to action way too fast, or saying something weird, or making some joke, not because I wanted to be, but because I was qualifying myself and making other person to laugh, and not finding things to say, running out of things to say, being like really weird and being negative sometimes, misinterpreting things, reframing things in a negative way, like all those things all those situations that I had back in the days when I started dating Korean girls, or when I tried to do that. Those are the mistakes that actually made me extremely unsuccessful in the first, like right at the beginning of this journey. And I want you to avoid those mistakes. I want you to actually A, learn Korean language, learn Korean culture. B, stop being needy and start being confident by improving yourself. And C, actually coming to Korea and actually taking action, approaching people, experiencing it yourself, or starting doing it online in your own country and then coming to Korea. I think I feel the same as you. I'm studying Chinese now in Taiwan, but I want to go to Korea. I've never been to Taiwan. I heard it's an extremely good place. It's the best place I heard. I want to go to Taiwan. Guys, if you have any questions, I kind of did my conclusion with ABC. I'm going to be doing more in depth, like for example, about the date or about texting or about what to say, how to find things to say, especially with limited vocabulary, limited language skills, how to learn Korean language faster, what materials to use. Ask me any questions in comments. I'm going to be basing my like my future live stream topics on your questions, on what are the things that you're curious about, what are your top pain points, what are your problems and stuff like this. Any feedback, any questions, something you disagree with or agree with, just anything. Hi Victor, any advice on meeting and dating the older Korean women between the ages 35 to 45? A lot of the older Korean women age very nicely and look very young for their age. Um, so I think it's the same. It's nothing special between it's nothing special in the advice that I gave right now already in this live stream and the question that you asked. There is no difference between younger girls and older girls in this sense. Probably, yeah. The only thing that I would add is that um, why are you interested in older girls? Like, is it your age bracket, or are you just interested in older girls yourself? Did you try dating young girls? Did you see how young girls and older girls look like? I think that really important, probably with older girls especially, what I saw is that in Korea, girls of this age, they have hobby. Like, this is really important. Some of them do golf, some of them do something else like tennis, play tennis. So it's extremely important to relate with people on the basis of some sort of activity. This is the best thing to do. Probably it's a little bit more specific for this age group that you've mentioned, because students and younger girls, they don't necessarily have a hobby that they do every day or every week. They're not necessarily aware of what they want to do. Some of my friends, some of my friends who are girls, they started interested in some sort of activity later, like after 30. They discovered that they want to try something new. So hobby is one of the best ways to relate. Hey Victor, do you believe Asian girls prefer masculine men or feminine men? Absolutely masculine men. I thought that Korean girls prefer feminine men because of those K-pop stars. It doesn't mean anything. If you look at the fan base of those K-pop stars, most of them are high school girls or just school girls. Yeah, like really, like just kids. And mostly Korean girls are really like guys in a good fit who are extremely masculine and stuff like that. I should visit Korea in July if the pandemic situation won't get worse suddenly. I'm afraid whether I can make some girlfriends there because I am a short guy, shorter than most girls, being only 5'5". People, if you're short in your country, doesn't mean you're short here, bro. Have you been to Korea? People are not tall here. I think you should start already communicating with the person with Rushius. Start communicating with people online. Go to Hello Talk, Tinder. Try to communicate with people online already. True golf and Pilates are really trending hobbies. And camping as well. How is feminism in the part of Asia? Is it existent? Do a lot of girls follow it? How is it viewed? So feminism in Korea has a negative image. Many weird people take part in it. Feminism has really good reasons, but for some reason in countries like Korea, it attracted lots of girls whose goals are not necessarily related to feminism, whose values are not necessarily correlated with feminism. They're just, I don't know, it's just, there are different people in every kind of movement, but it's like cancel culture and haters, they tend to go to those sorts of movements for some reason. In Korea, feminism is really strong. So, for example, if in Russia, traditionally girls, they go cook something. they tend to be like, they tend to cook a lot, like much more than men. It's traditional in Russia. And if in Korea, if I say something like this to a girl, like you should be good at cooking because you're a girl, is the best way to have an argument. It's the best way to have a conflict to say things like this. So generally, girls in Korea, they this is one of the reasons why it's really different from Western countries. Like, they pay for themselves, they don't consider that the guy should provide for them and stuff. So so it's extremely important to understand that if you say phrases like girls should do that and should be able to do that because you're a girl, it's a really bad thing to say. And it's the feminist movement is extremely strong in Korea as well. There are so many girls who take part in this movement. Not necessarily weird, but some of them are. Are Russian girls more traditional? How is feminism viewed in Russia? I think Russian girls don't care about feminism at all, because they act in a way that is more traditional. So, like, for example, a girl should do this and that, and guy should do this and that. Like, there is a distinguishing kind of line between what guys should do and what girls should do in Russia. It's like a guy should earn money, buy a car, buy home, and girls should take care of a baby and cook and do housework. It's extremely, like, it's a really clear line between like men and women, like what they should do and what they should have. In Korea, it's not true. In Korea, many girls have crazy careers, are extremely intelligent, smart, go to really good companies, build businesses. In Russia, you don't see this happening that much. You just see many girls want to be married as quickly as possible, and considering financial position of a guy as an extremely important component when it comes to making a decision about marriage. So this is kind of how it goes in Russia. In China as well. In China, I heard that, I mean, not the same with Russia, but girls are really interested about the financial situation of a guy. Okay, guys, so I hope that you liked this live stream. If you have any more questions left, please post them down in comments. Give me some more feedback about the live stream. I know that many of you are introverted. I know that many of you are really introverted, so that you don't even post comments. Try to engage with other people in the community as well. Try to communicate with each other. Some of my subscribers have really good results in language learning, dating, and the purpose of this channel is to help you to improve your life in dating, language learning, and make an adventure out of your life. How do Russian women think about dating foreigners? They are really positive about it. Really positive. Answer your questions in comments. And yeah, so really like to talk to you. Love talking to you today. And as always, until next time.